Hello, welcome to Okay So Basically. In this podcast, I have a series of interviews where I speak with young people who are actively participating in things they are passionate about, and they share some of their opportunities they've had and how you can find some opportunities of your own. So if this sounds like your kind of thing, you're in the right place, and I hope you enjoy. Hello, welcome to Okay So Basically. Today I'm joined with a special guest. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi guys, my name is Aleksa Asme. I'm a spoken word artist, I'm a poet, I'm a writer, I'm a public speaker, actress. I also produce my own creative events and I run an events platform called Let Your Mind Speak, and I work in freelance marketing and research.
Nice, that is a lot.
Ciao.
It's really impressive. Today we're going to talk more about your poetry and the spoken word that you do. So could you tell us how you kind of got into that and how it started?
Yeah, so I started spoken word poetry when I was about 13. I remember I was in an English class one time. And at this point, like my school was always promoting poetry competitions, but it was just one of those posters that they just put around the school and I was just never really paying attention to. And I remember one time, like I was the debater of the class. Like I spoke a lot. Any discussion, I was leading it. It would get to the point where the English teacher would have to be like, okay, someone else other than Aleksa, please speak. And so that year when that poetry competition came out, my teacher just basically wanted to shut me up and have me focus on something else. So she was like, you should enter. And I'm like, but I'm not a poet, like, what's this? And she was like, you should do it. And I remember writing a poem on racism and discrimination because they gave some sort of guidelines. I don't remember what the guidelines were. But I wrote a poem on that called Just a Label. And then this poem was entered into this competition. It was a national competition. And then it got published in a book. And then through there, like I was invited to speak out at an exhibition that was happening at a school in East London. And then, yeah, since then I kind of got into public speaking and then kind of took a break from poetry itself for a couple of years because of school and other commitments. And then last year, I was invited to do a poetry show by one of our friends who were doing it here at the Albany. And one of my other friends, old school teacher who ran an event, she was there. And she basically came up to me afterwards and was like, I'm in love with you. Like, I'm obsessed with you. She actually didn't approach me like that. She approached me like, your hair is so nice. And then she started to say how much she loves my poetry. And she told me about her event and it was an open mic night. So I went to my first ever open mic night. And then through that, I started to get booked for headline shows and everything. And in 8 months, I had over 200 shows.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Just like that. Hey, shout out to that teacher as well.
Shout out to her. Says Events, actually. Am I okay to plug them?
Sure, go for it.
Yeah, Says Events. Listen, one of the greatest spoken word nights to exist, other than my own, obviously.
Definitely. That is actually one of our questions as well. Like, what resources, what organizations helped you get there in case there's anyone listening who kind of wants to get into this thing and doesn't know where they can go to kind of, get better and...
Absolutely. So when I started poetry and I entered that competition, that was page poetry. So there's different styles of poetry and page poetry is written poetry. So poetry that is written with the intention for someone to read it. And so that first ever poem that I wrote was literally not even 2 pages, like 2 small pages long. And that got published in a book. But then last year I entered into performance poetry or spoken word, as some people like to call it. And getting into them are kind of 2 separate ways. Like kind of what I said, you can go through competitions and there are so many poetry competitions that happen in all the time. And most of them are online. So even if you can't access a space physically, there are a lot available online. Like literally just type in writing competition or poetry competition. I promise you 1 million will come up in Google. There's also like maybe contacting like a publisher or someone who like publishes books. I think I had one approach me because I was going to record an audiobook last year and I'm still in the process of working on that. But she publishes a lot of books, so that's one way. If you're looking to get into spoken word, like performance poetry, I would definitely recommend finding the nearest open mic night to you because open mic nights, what they are is they're quite an intimate space. You're not going to get a lot of people in there probably no more than 100. Even 100 is a stretch. Like, we're talking typical numbers between 30 and 60. So it's a nice, chilled atmosphere. And you will have all sorts of creatives in the room, people that you won't even believe are creatives. It will show you a whole different dimension and perspective. And you'll have people who work in so many different fields. Like, networking is the highest in those places. Like, you will do one event, and after you do that, like, so many people will come up to you and want to talk to you and get involved, or you can even approach these people. And the more you speak to these people, the more you'll find that some of these people run their own events. Some of these people work for companies who might want to hire you, and you can go down the public speaking route. But yeah, so networking at open mic nights, I cannot stress that enough. Like, those 200 shows I did last year happened from attending my first open mic.
Nice. And how can people find out about open mics? You said online. Is
Yeah.
there something that you search or?
Yes, there are a couple of ways. I mean, online is basically where everything is done right now. I would firstly, like, if you're not someone that's online, I mean, I imagine you are, because how is this happening? But even if you're not someone who's online, perhaps look in your local area, because open mic nights are often hired at like local spaces. So like pubs, maybe some theaters, some libraries, some spaces that can be turned into creative spaces. So perhaps look around like your local area. But if you are online, Eventbrite is a really, really good way, because most open mic nights will sell their tickets through Eventbrite. Some are free, some you have to pay for, but either way, if you search on Eventbrite, like open mic night in London, or open mic night in Birmingham, or open mic night in Manchester, or spoken word, or music, or poetry, you're going to get a whole range of events. Some of them won't even be open mic nights. Some of them might be showcases. Some of them might be workshops. And it's like, that's the space to find those events. Or you can just go on Instagram and type in poetry event, music event, comedy, open mic, or something like that, and you'll see a lot of Instagram pages run by events who do that.
Nice. And do you want to tell us about any of the events you run? Anything like that?
Yeah, so as I mentioned in the beginning, I run an events platform called Let Your Mind Speak, and this is a multi-art creative platform. So at the moment, all we've done is open mic nights, and we've been doing them at Battersea Art Centre, which is a very beautiful venue. And yeah, so they've been spoken word, music, comedy, public speaking, open mic nights. But at the moment, we're looking to expand into having writing workshops. At the moment, we have some people from Let Your Mind Speak at this space at the Albany, utilizing one of our writing spaces that are available, because it's a platform, so we really care about communities, and we don't want to just let people, give people the chance to perform and not give them the chance to develop their creativity or give them a space to work on it. And so we have writing spaces available here at the Albany every Wednesday. We're also working on, like I said, doing some workshops, doing some music nights. I shouldn't say this, but because I like you.
Oh, a little exclusive.
Yeah. I am working on doing kind of like a long-term project where I want to mix like writers and poets with like artists who can paint and draw, and commission some artists, visual artists, to create some work, and then use that art into a series of workshops with writers, and then get the writers to write pieces based on the artwork, and then do a showcase at the end of that where there is a visual arts gallery of all the artists we commissioned, but then also the poets sharing their pieces.
Wow, that just sounds so perfect. How did you come up with that idea? Honestly.
You know what? My mum is an incredible artist. She can paint and draw for years. And we were kind of talking about a business plan. One day I was just like, why don't I do something with that? Because even though I specialize in poetry, I don't want the events platform just to be poetry. I want to give other creative outlets to be, because let your mind speak as an ecosystem of creativity, encouraging self-expression. And poetry isn't the only way to express yourself creatively. And I know quite a lot of artists, so I was thinking, okay, what about we combine the two? So I'm currently working on finalizing that.
Well, I'm really excited for that. Can't wait to see that happen. So if anyone's listening and you want to get into poetry, spoken word, Let Your Mind Speak is one of the great ones to come to. Or like Aleksa said, we're actually at the Albany right now, and downstairs, Come As You Are is happening, which is an open mic night. And you can find more on Eventbrite.
But yeah, also like Let Your Mind Speak has an Instagram page called lyms.events. And as I said before, this is a platform, so we really care about community. So if you're someone who perhaps can't attend one of the events that we do, or you want to know about other events, we're not bougie, we're not selfish. Like, we're happy to promote other events. We're happy to encourage you to go other places or provide you other resources if we don't currently have them or if you can't access ours. So Limes Events on Instagram is the page you need to be following if you want to get into anything creative.
Lovely, thank you. I remember when I went to one of my first poetry shows, and everyone in the audience, during one of the performances, everyone in the audience started clicking their fingers, and I was like, what's happening? And I realised it was poetry etiquette. So I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about that in case someone's about to go to their first open mic show. What can they expect?
Firstly, you lot don't even know. This is a bad boy poet over here. Listen, you don't even know who's hosting this one. You need to give her your flowers. But anyways, so there's something that we call poetry etiquette. So open mic nights tend to be very relaxed events. Like, you're welcome to move around, you're welcome to make noise, you're welcome to like leave if you need to. I mean, there's normally breaks and intervals, but it's a very relaxed type of setting. And what we encourage is that when a poet is performing, if you like a line or a word or something that they've said, you typically would click. But you can also show like verbal expressions. So you can go like a or a yeah, wow. You can even be audacious and shout, say it again.
Say it again.
Take it back.
Take it back.
And if the poet is comfortable, they'll literally repeat their last line. You can clap as well. And yeah, it's just a way of showing appreciation to poets. I mean, unless a poet will stand up on a stage and say, because of my focus or whatever, like, I need you to shut up. In that case, please shut up. But more or less every poet loves being encouraged as they speak. People like to know that their work is appreciated. People spend a lot of time when it comes to poetry and practicing and perfecting their craft. So yeah, that's poetry etiquette.
Lovely. And I know so many people who are into poetry and spoken word, but they're just too shy to share their own work. What would you kind of say to anyone who's listening, who's in that position? Like, they've got so many great poems, but they're just too shy to share that work.
I think, firstly, if you're not going to share it, who will? Second of all, the creative scene doesn't exist without creatives. So if every creative walks around doubting their work, we don't have a scene. The scene is you. The scene is me. There is that. But then it's also just, I'm a very firm believer of coming back to the purpose of why you do what you do and understanding why you write. And whatever that reason might be, you never know who in the audience is listening. You never know who in the audience needs to hear that purpose or feel that purpose or see that. Creativity isn't just like poetry, performing it isn't just about having the most fancy punchlines and getting all the nice rhymes. I mean, that is incredible. If that is your style of poetry, amazing. That's even another reason for us to hear it. But for a lot of people, because it's a way of writing from a place of self-expression, your testimony, your story, your lived experience could be changing someone else's life. There's been cases where I've had people attend one of my shows and literally tell me, if you didn't put this event on tonight, and if I didn't hear some of the stories that I've heard today through these people's poems, I would have killed myself. Like, And I don't say that to brag and be like, oh, wow, like my events are changing people's lives. Your stories are changing people's lives. Your lived experiences, your testimony, whatever you speak about, even if your poem is complete jokes or rudeness or vibes or whatever your poem consists of, it doesn't always have to be something deep or philosophical for it to be powerful. Every poet has their own style. They have their own, like there's value in your own creativity. And your creativity is always going to be unique because you write from a perspective that no one else has. And that story, that lived experience, that form of self-expression is powerful.
Thank you. So if that doesn't encourage you to go out and share your work, I don't know what will.
But also, just to add on to that, like, performance poetry doesn't always mean that, like, you now have to go out and become a professional poet. Like, if you want to, that's fine. But sometimes, like, I've seen cases where people come to an open mic just literally for the purpose of releasing or sharing or expressing, and then they never perform again. So it's like, if you're looking at this and be like, if you're hearing this and you're like, yeah, great, you're talking about all these opportunities and people approaching you after perform, but I don't want that. That's fine. Like, that's okay. I've seen people show up to 1 or 2 open mic nights and then disappear. I've seen people who are literally doctors and they perform at open. I've seen every profession. Wow. When I tell you, you never know who's a creative. Open mic nights will show you construction workers, people in, not parliament, but like people in politics and like governmental positions, people who are doctors, people who are creators for a living. It doesn't need to be your living. It's fine if that isn't your desire. Like I said, there is still power in sharing. So I truly believe that everyone is a creative. You just need to find your form and your release. So, yeah.
Wow, thank you for those wise words. We're going to start to wrap up now. But before we go, I just wanted to know, what are your next steps, Miss Aleksa? What's your journey looking like? What's coming up next?
Yeah, so, I mean, obviously busy with Let Your Mind Speak and trying to elevate that, have it grow as a platform and build communities, reach as many people as we can, but also put on a wide range of events. I also work as the lead facilitator for Come As You Are, which is a youth takeover that happens at the Albany every single Wednesday from 5 p.m. So if you're a young person and you want a space to hang out by yourself or maybe meet some other people, there's free snacks, there's music, there's writing spaces, working spaces, study spaces. There's even spaces for you to come and run your own things if you want to, or you can just come and chill and just do absolutely nothing. So yeah, I'm working on elevating that. And then I'm doing a lot of youth work right now as well. So yeah.
Lovely. And if anyone wants to find you on any social media, where can they find you? What do they need to be typing up?
So my name is just my name. If you remember my name, you'll be able to find me anywhere, like literally anywhere. So that is ALEKSAASME. I emphasize the KS because people hear Alexa and run with the Amazon Alexa. As much as the pronunciation is the same, the spelling isn't. You won't find me with that. So ALEKSA. Thank you so much.
Nice. Well, that is all for today. Thank you so much for sharing that. I hope someone has found that really useful. And I will see you in the next episode. Thank you guys. Bye.
Amazing.